for me personally, the biggest thing is I come back to my why as to why am I doing this? And I think the bigger your why is, or the more meaningful, the bigger impact it's going to have. And you're going to put out content even on those days where you're like, I'd rather sit in bed and eat Cheetos. So, which I mean, it happens to me all the time, and I'm so guilty of it even now. Like I'm trying to keep up with too much content at this point. So there's days where I'm like, oh, I should have filmed that. Why did I not do that? It's hard. So I don't want, give yourself grace, but just know if you have this big picture in your mind, you don't want to live in this like state of regret or like, oh, I should have, because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If you just push through those times where you're really not feeling like it, it's going to pay off.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Spotlight session here at High Level. I'm your host JB, and today's episode is called Branding with a Punch. And why we created this was because comedy can play a big part in standing out. How many of you have thought about getting comedic on your marketing material? How many of you have thought about maybe getting a little bit more creative and making people laugh and smile, but maybe it held you back? Well, I have a fantastic guest with us today. Someone who's been through the journey of rejection in Hollywood, overcoming challenges related to personal branding, and finding creative ways to stand out in a saturated market. We've put together an episode together with 3 important points that we want you to drive home and be able to take action on. So point number 1 is why branding matters today. Point number 2 is the power of humor and how a comedy can benefit your brand. And point number 3 is standing out from the competitors with the use of comedy in your day-to-day marketing and branding. Without further ado, help me welcome Megan Nager. Megan, it is amazing to finally have you. I know we've been back and forth, but we are here.
We are here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes,
So
yes. And, you've been a high-level user for some time. You have been an agency owner for some time. And when we had reached out to you, you had said, I have a little bit of a creative topic. I'm not sure if you guys will see 100% how we could fit it in, but definitely hear me out first because this could be a game changer. So I'm glad you did that because some people might just write it off and you didn't. So for those that don't know you, Megan, do you mind just sharing a little bit about who you are, how you started, a little bit of your background life story as we frame this to move on to some important topics?
yes. Yes. So I'm glad that you liked my topic because it's a little off the cuff in terms of marketing. I think I have a non-traditional background in terms of compared to most marketers. So I started without going into like a whole life story. I started in acting. I'm a SAG actor, stand-up comedian, content creator. I have like a total of 300,000 followers from making really dumb comedy videos on social media. So maybe don't look that up. But I basically I started acting in Hollywood. I then went on to realize that I don't just like acting, I also just love creating content. So long story short, in between performing stand-up, improv, auditioning, I worked at several large production companies. One was Steve Carell's, Carousel Productions. I traveled all over New York, DC, worked on documentaries, and just got a really solid grasp on the filmmaking process and how to distribute content. In that sense, more like TV shows, but comes into play for marketing. Then in around 2017, my now husband and I formed a production company. We started by creating content for mainly TV shows, Amazon Prime, also music videos, short films, feature films. And when COVID hit, we realized that we really were passionate about getting content distributed. And in Hollywood, there are a lot of gatekeepers. And we're like, oh, it's cool. Digital marketing exists. And so kind of long story short, we ended up being asked by several people during COVID to create content for their brands and businesses. And we had the filmmaking expertise, the writing expertise, editing, etc. And we realized that digital marketing was very empowering because you could create your own content and then get it seen by thousands of people. You don't need to get the permission of Hollywood gatekeepers. So today we own a full-scale digital marketing company and production house. We're based in South Florida, but have clients nationwide, excuse me. And our name is Wake and Make Media. And we specialize in creating really high quality content for brands and businesses. We do everything from distributing that content through ads. We do social media marketing, SEO, email marketing, you name it.
Yeah, so you know you understand the pain that some of our marketers, our SaaSpreneurs, our agency owners go through, right? We've seen from time to time customers like yourself have thousands of customers on their platform, and their thousands of customers expect them to help them be creative and grow their business, right? And come up with these ideas in new ways. So what a lot of people that tune into high level spotlight sessions, they're looking for from subject matter experts like yourself some things that they could do to help their customer base. What's something thinking outside the box? So I'm really excited what we're about to dive into here. But a question for you: when or how did you determine that shift needed to happen from pursuing a just maybe acting or SAG career, and then getting into more diverse, digital marketing consultant, like you said, distributing onto the new TV, the platforms, Netflix, Amazon, all these different places. What was like that moment?
It was really during COVID when we had already made some videos for brands and businesses prior, along with, creating TV shows and everything in the entertainment industry. But we had like several projects that were just stalled. We were waiting on studios to get approval. And we had kind of already started this shift in our minds. It was slow. And then I basically created with a fellow comedian a concept for a pop culture conspiracy theory show. And we were getting told no from a lot of studios. We decided, hey, let's put it up on TikTok. We quickly reached about 500,000 followers and landed a deal with Spotify. So signed a 3 season deal as a Spotify original show. And I was like, wow, I've been trying to chase after all these people by showing them my concepts. You can really just go to social media, come up with a creative concept, and it's all in the power's in your hands. And you can attract instead of chase basically. And
Yeah.
so it just reconfirmed. And at this point, I still act. My husband is an amazing cinematographer. We own our company together. So we'll still do our creative projects. But in the meantime, instead of waiting for projects to get greenlit, we love helping other people create their own content that and basically gets them more sales, customers, etc.
Yeah, so it sounds like you went direct to consumer, right? Direct to the
Yes.
source, direct to taking action versus leaving it in someone else's hands. And the biggest word that popped out to me was attract, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to go about attracting our customer, and then the skill set, which is what your husband do, which is the cinematography. You've probably seen it, and probably during your process of developing this, you've noticed that you can't do both all the time as an expert. You have to be a true expert in one, and then another and another. So definitely, we have to get hubby on here soon to understand that part of it,
Yeah.
because here's what the roadblock is in my experience and what I've seen others kind of go through. They'll use programs that are out there. They'll grab some footage, and then the footage doesn't quite meet what they expect for it to look like, right? So it's like, oh, that doesn't quite look like I thought it was going to look like. This is not for me, and they give up on it. And that's why I want to jump into our first topic, which is why branding matters first and foremost. For those that give up on it, right? What's the biggest mistake they're making and why? Because maybe they're not skilled with it or they don't want to contract it out, but how can we help them see the other side?
Totally. I completely relate to this because I started creating content, I don't know, honestly, back when I was in middle school and it was horrific. And going all the way back to 2010, I look at my early stuff and I was like, oh my gosh, even for content we've created for brands and businesses years ago. And I think the main problem is giving up on it. You don't need to be an extra expert cinematographer. We actually have a whole online course that we sell. And it's all about filming yourself. So you can have an iPhone. You don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars. Again, it's all in your own hands now with technology. You grab an iPhone, you put it in front of a window, make sure it's not wobbly, and you just start being authentic. I think authenticity is the biggest thing. You don't need to have high quality cinema cameras following you around like you're in, an A-list movie. And it's just about sticking with it and realizing that, Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to be a content expert overnight. It takes people decades, like the people you're seeing on social media who are creating these epic videos. That's been decades of hard work. And just because you don't have an epic video doesn't mean that your message isn't going to resonate with a ton of people. So you still want to get that message out there. And then as you keep going, you're going to get more comfortable. You'll get more skilled in filming and you just can't give up. It's about consistency.
Yeah. And it's, what happens from time to time, you hear this stuff, you're like, it's right. I need to start getting to it, right? I think the biggest thing is how do we stay motivated to want to go through it? Could you give
For
us
sure.
maybe some best practices or ways that the days that you don't feel like creating content, or that you feel a little overwhelmed with a bunch of other things that are either money-making activities that you have to care for customers versus the creative side of the brain, which says, let me try this, this, and this. Like, how do you go about either scheduling it or preparing for it and then like doing it?
Yeah, so I just put out a book called Punchlines to Profit. It's right here. But I have a bunch of, it's on Amazon if you want to get it. But I have a bunch of techniques to keep that going and to keep yourself on track because I struggle with that so much. I know every other creator does. And I mean, for me personally, the biggest thing is I come back to my why as to why am I doing this? And I think the bigger your why is or the more meaningful, the bigger impact it's going to have, and you're going to put out content even on those days where you're like, I'd rather sit in bed and eat Cheetos. So which I mean, it happens to me all the time, and I'm so guilty of it even now. Like I'm trying to keep up with too much content at this point, so there's days where I'm like, oh, I should have filmed that, why did I not do that? It's hard, so I don't want, give yourself grace, but just know if you have this big picture in your mind, you don't want to live in this like state of regret or like, oh, I should have, because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If you just push through those times where you're really not feeling like it, it's going to pay off. And again, especially if it's something you're passionate about. I think if you start creating content about something that you're not passionate about, or you're just like doing it for the sake of likes or views, you're going to burn out. But it feels different when you're really connected to why you're doing this.
Yeah. And when it comes to, definitely, right, mapping out, on having your why, right? What is the purpose of this is so important. Now, when it comes to more the positioning and the strategy,
Mhm.
are there some sort of pillars or some sort of framework that you can give us, just something we could try on our own to at least get the mind exploring on it until they either buy your book or learn more about it through, your resources?
For sure. Creating like a content schedule is always really, really helpful, and just sticking to it, even if it's like once a month is better than never or inconsistent. Like if you just stick to and make it easy at first. Say every Tuesday, once a month on a Tuesday, I'm going to put out a YouTube video, or I'm going to put out an Instagram video. Once a week, on Wednesdays, I'm going to do this. And give yourself a day where you're going to script something, come up with ideas. The next day you're going to film it. The next day you're going to edit it. And so you really give yourself a schedule, almost like you're in a workplace. Otherwise, I think you can get too scatterbrained and put it off. In terms of like continually coming up with ideas, I think the more present you get, the more helpful it is. If you can just give yourself some time to just do something you actually like doing, like going for a walk, listening to music, dancing around like an idiot, like you're going to come up with a lot of good ideas, and write those ideas down. I keep a note on my phone, and I am constantly writing different ideas down. So when you do go to create content, you're not like, oh, shoot, I don't have anything to talk about. And then also talking to a friend or someone who's on the same page, and getting them like hold yourself, or having them hold you accountable. If you could get like a content buddy, that also really helps. You don't need to be making the same sort of content, but just someone who's either a digital marketer or a content creator, and you guys can do like a check-in even once a week, once a month, and just making sure you're following through.
Yeah, so that content calendar, definitely took a note on that. When you said, when I'm here, when I'm there, my notepad, that happens probably to a lot of people as well. We're not the only ones where, like, if I'm on the elliptical, I'll come up with some ideas and I'm trying to balance, not fall off and type in those ideas, or I'm in the car and I'm getting yelled at by my wife saying, don't text and drive. And then, like, there's so many different ways. And I think the
Voice
easiest way,
note.
yeah,
Yeah.
the easy way, just like
Yeah.
either voice to text or just kind of get it somewhere.
Yep.
And I see that working because it'll compound. So sounds a little too easy to be true here, right? So we get the jotting down the ideas, we get the content calendar. You mentioned YouTube. Sometimes I think what holds people back is like where do I start? YouTube, Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook, Threads, Twitter, this, that, the other. Could you just share for somebody that maybe wants to get their business out there. They're a marketer like you, an agency
Yeah.
like you, and they're not seeing the same results they were seeing before because everyone's doing a personal brand. It's not just the business brand anymore.
Yep.
Can you walk us through how do we get into a personal brand without personally embarrassing ourselves and personally regretting what we post?
Yeah, that's a great. And you might look back and be, cringe at your old content. That's fine. It means you've grown. So there's that.
And there's business models around where it's so funny because I'll see like some agency owners and marketers, they'll go off of the new trending videos. So it's like
Yeah,
the hospital chair flies off and they roll up and they go, hey, like I'm like,
I did one of those. Yeah.
it's so cool. Like I'm like, all right. But then I find myself like, all right, this person's real. Let me stay following them. And they don't do them all the time, but every once in a while it's that real moment. How do we like balance it?
Totally. So wait, I feel like I lost your question. I'm sorry.
I know, because
Repeat.
I threw a lot at you here 'cause
No,
of
no.
excitement. But I will say is like, how do we get ourselves out there without having to do every trending video or having
Right. Okay.
to do like super long form or getting shy? Like, what are some examples that you've seen from clients who are beginners get started?
Totally. So I think, yeah, and the first thing you said was basically how to put yourself out there as like a business owner because everyone does have a personal brand today.
More and more.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow or any of your listeners follow Alex Hormozy. He's put out a few videos about this, but he was like, for years I was so hesitant about putting myself out there. It was just about my business. And then one of my friends, he was a lot more successful than me, made a lot more money than me. And he was like, people want to hear you, the authentic you. So say you own, we're working with a real estate kind of house flipping company, just one of our clients.
Mhm.
They are also a little hesitant about making videos. We're now working with them. It took them a minute to like really get comfortable, which I totally understand, especially because I have the background of being an actor. So that's like a weird, not a lot of people who are going to be a content creator have that, and you're used to being on camera. So again, you need to give yourself some grace and know it takes a minute. It's okay to feel embarrassed. Um, but if you are connected to what you're saying, you believe what you're saying, and you resonate with what you're telling people, it's going to come across as authentic. And that's what resonates, especially today when you have a million AI programs, deep fake things. Like if you have a real message, no matter even if it's filmed on a fuzzy old iPhone, it's going to hit some people who need to hear it. So I just think it's about staying true to your message. And if you want to, be the representative or face of your company, start by posting a video once a month, once a week, and say, this is, for the real estate guys. Like they didn't want to talk a lot. So we said, I interjected some comedy and I was like, what if you guys, because you have a unique perspective on house flipping, you react to really bad house flipping videos? So they're not talking a lot. They're literally sitting there and there's two of them, so it's more comfortable. And they're just cracking up at people who really think they know how to house flip and they don't. So it's an easy way to like really get in there slowly. You don't have to say a ton. Another client we have, she's a therapist. I said, hey, film yourself for 30 seconds saying wisdom of the day. You just told me this really great piece of advice. Now just say it into your phone, and I guarantee I'll share it. A bunch of other people will share it. So start small, and as long as it's true to you and what you believe, it's going to work.
Yeah,
And the
the
more you
expressing
do
of
it,
personality is so key. And like with those flipping
yes,
brothers that you were sharing, their smile, their laugh, there was some relatability there. And they got to
yes,
see the human part of it, which thank you for sharing that. Just a little bit more a little bit more of example, start to piece it together a little bit more easier, especially for
yeah,
some people that like are frightened from this. So I appreciate you doing that.
sure.
Now, as we get into this momentum and we start to really get our confidence and we see results from the efforts we're doing, the power of humor, and there's so many different ways to incorporate humor, from the psychological effect of humor in marketing, that emotional connection, the memorable brand experience. Can you just unpack that a little bit on how someone should be aware, see, and maybe potentially start to build a plan with that in mind?
Yeah. So I tell people this all the time. You don't need to come out and put in this insane video in your, say you own a tech company. You don't need to put in this thing where you're you trip and fall and you light yourself on fire and it's just like insane. Like you don't need to go that far. Adding humor could just be in the slightest way, whether it's like, kind of taking yourself a little less seriously, talking more naturally. It doesn't need to be laugh out loud. Oh my gosh, this is hysterical. So there's that. I think when people hear humor, they're like, I'm not funny. I'm not going to do that. But it could be the most subtle thing. Like for instance, a coffee company that we was one of our clients, they have when this is also kind of using like culture to add comedy, but they created when the Barbie movie came out. They have a lot of women customers for some reason. So they created a Barbie drink that was all pink. We had one of the baristas paint her nails pink. We added a Nicki Minaj song from the movie under it and had like a pink Corvette fly through. Like that's not like ha ha ha, but it was
It was
it
like
was
that. If you watch the movie, you got it, and you're like, "Oh my God, that was from the scene." Like,
yeah, exactly.
there's that
Yeah,
connection. Yeah,
subtle.
and
So yeah.
that sounds like it was like a bit of a production.
Yeah,
But someone,
well, just the
oh,
nails were, but we really just went to the shop, just filmed the barista. She actually painted one of her nails pink. We just filmed the coffee really close up, being poured. We just added the song under and then added a graphic of the car. So it wasn't even that. Yeah.
so you see, I'm already making excuses.
No, 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 no. I mean, it would be hard to do by yourself. I'll
But
give you.
but you know, but in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they had to rent a car, they had to rent a
Oh
coffee
no, it wasn't a
shop,
real. No.
right? But that's when we're not ready or comfortable or aware of how easy it could be because we overcomplicate it. I know I'm not the only one that thinks like that, but those are excuses that we start to make, and that's why I'm glad we have you here because we're gonna debunk all those different things that people think you need to actually worry about or do in order just to record a 30-second clip.
Oh yeah, it's as simple is better. It's yeah.
So, like, if
Yes.
we were to, could you just give us a couple of examples of just maybe some clients that you've worked with, or a couple of industries? Say, like, let's say it's like a plumber or an
Mhm.
electrician. What would be a way that we can create something potentially relatable, slightly funny, but not like over
Totally.
extra?
Yes. So one thing I'll say really quickly in response to what you said before is with comedy, there's a ton of studies out, and I cite some in my book, but comedy shatters ego, it increases social bonding, it reduces cortisol levels, stress. So anytime you're implementing them in branding or marketing, it's subconsciously affecting your customers or viewers. So that is why it really has a psychological impact on them. And yeah, so aside from the ones I mentioned, we have one client. This was actually really cool because it's just happened. He is I guess he calls himself a peacekeeper. He basically goes into corporations if HR can't handle a situation. So it's like employees like really trying to kill each other. And he's hired by really, really large corporations. And he's a pretty serious guy. He's awesome. He's so talented. He has a psychology background, sociology back. Like he's really good. And he works with very serious brands and businesses. But there's all these videos we kept seeing again for the reaction videos of that's where I got the idea for the real estate guys because we did it with him. Of today, people are like, unfortunately, I think people are very like testy and angry, and people are fighting in public a lot. And we had seen so many examples on TikTok specifically of just customers being really rude to employers, employees screaming at each other for no reason, people throwing stuff at drive-through employees, and just kind of off the wall. And it came up because he was saying how he's been dealing with these conflicts, and he's like, it didn't used to be like that. So we had him react to really crazy workplace fights. And again, if you want to give up, listen to this story because we've been posting for him for about a little over a year. His videos were getting 2 views, 4 views, 10 views, 15 views, 1,000 views, 50,000 views, 7 million views. And so he's gone completely viral on TikTok, on Instagram, and just so happened a few months ago, A&E, the head of A&E, saw his videos, and they were like, "We want to make a reality show out of that." So we just worked with Vaynerwatt Media, which is Gary Vee's new production company, and created it's a proof of concept that they're showing to A&E, but we just filmed it last week of a whole TV show based off of these funny reaction videos. So The simplest thing, he wanted to give up. He was like, I don't get why you guys keep posting these videos. This is so silly. They were so simple. They're literally him on his iPhone reacting, ha ha ha, and then him commenting, this is what I would do in this situation. And he wasn't even that funny. He was just more lighthearted, kind of laughed at how crazy it was. So not like super laugh out loud, has to be a stand-up comedian. And that turned into, I mean, hopefully we'll see, but could be a TV show. So that was one example.
And that's that just in that example alone, the person who started the process found value.
Yeah.
So his video attracted some sort of talent finder, executive, somebody who's in charge of this process. And this guy could be good. I see potential. Let's get him in the mix.
Yep.
And like to your point, you're trying to figure out like how did this really all happen, and what was the key ingredient so we could duplicate or potentially create a framework around or a system, right? Because
Yep.
you're looking at it from like a different angle than just videos. And I appreciate you sharing that because we do come across this even like here, like we have a great customer base, but like we're like, man, how did this video only get 50
Yep.
views in the first hour? This should have been 400 views, right? And again, the algorithm, the different elements that we're not aware of
Mm-hmm.
takes its time. And for someone that, and you said it perfectly, you're like, before you give up on this, here's a story that's going to resonate with you. Like that's
Yeah.
typically probably what you hear all the time. Like, I'm not made for this. My views aren't up there. People don't even watch it. Is it real? Is it worth my time?
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing that. And you had another one or two, and I want to sit on this for a little bit because I feel like it's so important that when we hear stories of others in their beginning and then their peak of success, it just helps us see, oh, that aha moment kicks in. Do you
Exactly.
have anybody that maybe is a retail store, a chiropractor, or like just a
Yeah.
little, go ahead.
Yeah. So I know that was, it kind of answered your comedy question, but it was one way to not be haha funny and it turned into a big
It
thing.
was
And
amazing because that's people wouldn't mind starting that way.
yeah,
Like that part, I've seen it myself, where I'm like, all right,
same,
I
same.
could pull this off too,
Yeah.
but I won't pull off a lot of other things to start off. So
Hmm.
it's
Yep.
like an ego thing, but also not like comfortable thing.
Yeah. And just sticking to it. So that was one, obviously, that worked very well. Another one, to your, you asked, we did a roofing company, in the Carolinas, and very serious. All their marketing was like, took themselves very, very seriously. And the owner came to us and he's like, you know what? I kind of want to change things up. Would you add something kind of funny? I don't want it to be insane, but so we just did this commercial where actually we got one of my friends who's an actor to um basically we kind of my husband did it with special effects, which I think he did in After Effects, which wasn't that difficult, but he had this like roofer show up and he basically showed up by busting through their roof. And then was like, it was very simple. It was just the owner and his wife sitting on the couch. They're the owners of the company. And they're like, our roof isn't looking that great. It was all cracked. This roofer who's gonna fix it slams through the door and he's like, don't worry, I got you covered. Call whatever Masters Roofing. So it's kind of silly. Depends on, he wanted to go that
It
route.
depends on who the viewer is.
Exactly. Yes.
There's so much content, and what I'll look at it sometimes. I'll scroll through content and I'll say, man, all these people are doing the same type of video.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it from my view, but really there could be 1,000 people doing the same type of video, but that doesn't even make a difference because there's so many different viewers and people across
Exactly.
the country. Not everybody's seeing your content. So could you
Yep.
kind of just walk through a little bit on how you coach your clients to understand that no matter how creative or great they think their video is or not, that there's there's such a wide blue ocean of potential of who can see it and who may never see it.
Exactly. So totally. And I actually heard this recently. I think it was on a podcast I was listening to, but they were saying, just like solely sticking to trend videos is becoming a little outdated. You know how you'll see people do the same trends over and over and over. But to that point, as an example, is I saw one girl do one comedy trend and I giggled. I scrolled 4 times and I saw another girl do the same exact trend and I almost peed my pants. So, like, this was literally the other day and I was like, oh, okay, actually, you could pull that off. One of my friends who has 500,000 followers, he only does comedy trends. And at first, now I feel bad, but I was like, do you really want to just do trends? But the way he does it is so funny. He's a really good actor and it just feels authentic. And he'll do it in really crazy scenarios, but it's the same trend. Or in like a really interesting with a background or in a weird location. And he gets millions of views on every video. So you every person has something unique to bring. If I give you That's why, like with acting, and I learned this from acting, they'll give me 3 lines to say, they'll give Ashley 3 lines to say, and Darlene 3 lines to say. That's why you audition, because all three of us are going to come in and say something, and it's going to give a completely different vibe. So if you feel like, oh, this has been said before, this has been done before, you don't understand how your perspective and your specific voice could end up really impacting someone who needs to hear it. And I struggle with this too, because we have a digital marketing podcast, and I'll come on and one day I'll talk about SEO. And I was telling my husband, he's like, make a video on SEO. And I was like, do you know how many videos on SEO are on YouTube? Like, no one cares what I have to say about SEO. But I just came at it from a different perspective. And I mean, it did fine. I'll keep putting out videos, but it doesn't stop me from it, because I know the way I say it is going to be different from John, the marketer, who says it.
I agree. And I just want to touch on this because some people may not do it. They may not realize the power of it. But all of these social platforms are making it very easy to make the communications in private messages to be more videos and parodies and memes and actually words,
Yeah,
right? People, I mean, within our family and friends, like I'm getting messages that I can't even watch all of them all the
same,
time.
same,
I
all day
just
long.
hit the like button sometimes because I
Yep.
don't want to, look like but it's so many.
It's nonstop.
But like usually like that clip will catch me. That,
Yep.
that like little preview clip will catch me. And
Yep.
I've seen it like, culture style parodies and memes like if you're this then you know what this is like, or like the mom or the grandma or the family, like that resonates, so then you start to follow. Could you share with me a little bit of the power of that sharing behind the scenes that's taking place,
Sure.
that people aren't getting the credit for the views?
Yeah. So I think I read this recently, but I mean, Instagram's always updating their algorithm. And I don't even know if I answered this. You asked before, like, which platform should I focus on
There's so
first?
many, and that's
There's
like a
so
whole other
many.
episode on top of it.
Yeah, like I could talk about that for an hour, because sometimes I'm like, I don't even know. Gary Vee back in the day, his perspective was like, be on every single platform, 100 pieces of content a day, every day. And I was like, you're a machine. I don't know if I could do this. But um, I think like if you just stick to, for instance, let's say Instagram. I think Instagram is easier for most people.
I agree.
YouTube longer form. So if you're just gonna start, you haven't started anywhere, just stick with Instagram. I'd say make it easy. A lot of people are on it. It's simple. You could do reels. You could also put text up. It's just a good balance. So there's that. But to your question, so I just read recently they're always changing the algorithm on Instagram. And I think right now sharing is being favored. So if people are sharing your video, that's what's getting like your views. You're being pushed out to more people. I think it's like they wait for the first hour, 60 minutes or something, to see how many people are sharing. And then they will like really blow it out if there's enough people. I don't know how they gauge that. But and now I've noticed they're starting to show how many people have shared it. Like it's more visible.
I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
And you could
That's like
hide the likes, hide like it's so much
yeah.
customization around that now.
Yep. Yeah. So the thing is that people are just lazy. And like you said, I'd say 3/4 of my inbox are friends and family sending me memes and funny videos, which I love, but I also can't keep up with. But at the same time, those videos are in my inbox and those videos are being shared. So it's not a bad thing. You want people to share your video, just because it doesn't have a million views or likes, but it's being shared a lot. That could actually be better than having millions of likes and views, to be honest. Because people are like, if I do a stupid comedy video and I see 150 people shared it early on, I'm like, oh, that's cool, even if the views are low. Because I'm like, people like this. I think it's a signal of people. I want to share this with people because that's how funny, that's how funny, or that's how much I like it.
It's I look at it similar, and it's there's so much things to stay up to date with, right? And I think
Yeah.
to back to your original point, start to build the habit, the excitement around it, build up enough reserve that when you aren't excited about it, you remember the results from it and you get back on track and you make it part of your schedule. And you really understand that it's not for you, it's for your potential audience or your existing clients. And they're gonna say, if you do it, then it's gotta make sense. We're gonna start doing it too. And that could be an extra monthly recurring revenue of service, whether you do it in-house or you outsource it. They're
For
going to
sure.
look for that service somewhere. So at least
Yeah.
be the starting point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then once you get better, you're making more money, you can outsource. I don't know if this is exactly what you're saying, but like you could outsource editing or you could outsource
Yeah.
posting.
I
At this
remember
point,
when Hootsuite
yeah,
and all these different
yeah,
platforms came out, right? They were so hard because you would just, how do I do this? And then their interest came in where there was promotions around. So people started, putting words. And then Canva came out. People started
right.
creating posts. And then now they're creating posting services. Like it evolved so much. And now there's so many video
Yeah.
captions. And then captions became a big thing. So you don't have to pick up exactly at the latest or the oldest, just do something.
Something. And there's so many AI programs out now that are actually very user friendly. Even if you're like, I don't get AI, it freaks me out. And they'll edit your videos for you. One is Opus AI. We use what's it called? Descript. That'll add captions as well. Metricool is a really great program because you can schedule your posts in advance. So if you're someone, I used to do this when I was creating a ton of content for that conspiracy thing I had. I would put out
Mhm.
2 videos a day every day, put it in, create the videos, batch it. So if you have one day of filming a month, knock out 10 videos, 5, 10 videos, however many you can, and you can put it in a scheduler like Metricool, for instance, and you just have all of that ready to go. So that if you are someone where you're finding like, hey, I'm not that motivated all the time, my motivation ebbs and flows, which is totally normal. Throw it in there and you'll have content ready to go for when you're not in the mood.
Yeah. And I appreciate you just kind of, going in depth here a little bit. Some people will understand and see the direction we're going. Others might say like, this is just a little overwhelming. And if you feel that it's
Sorry.
overwhelming, I apologize, but there'll be some information below on how you can kind of take this to the next level. We'll include Megan's information. We'll make it easy for you to, just try to get that additional support. But let's get to our third topic, which is standing out, right? And let's just originally I said standing out from the competitors with comedy, but let's pivot a little bit because you
Mhm.
had shared you don't always have to be super funny. You
Yeah.
don't always have to be super audacious and bold and jump out of a flying plane or just don't try to be something you're not and don't put yourself in
Exactly.
danger.
Do
For
not do that. Yes.
do not put yourself in danger, right? So as a matter of fact, we're totally saying do not do anything that's going to put you in danger to be funny or to get attention. But let's just talk about this a minute here. You're standing out from competitors. You have a consistency of good content.
Mhm.
What is the result of that from what you've seen, what you've experienced? How can this help you um, increase your bottom line, right? Like, there's always eyeballs. What are the types of eyeballs that could potentially reach out to you and say, hey, we love to do this with you or that?
Yeah, I mean, one example is, and back to what you just said, if you do feel overwhelmed, just literally go back to the basics and just say, I'm going to film myself on my iPhone in front of a window so I have good lighting and I'm going to talk clearly and that's it. I'm going to post it. Like literally stick to that. I'm going to post it on Instagram. Like start with that before you start introducing all these programs, everything else. Because it's advanced. I did not start like that, so don't feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to begin. And in terms of you were saying standing out, right?
Yeah, like standing, like, so, let's say I do a good streak of, a month and a half of content. Either it's in another language, it's a hybrid, it's
Right.
about a topic or something I'm an expert in. Kind of like those chiropractic videos that were come out, they were like super funny, and there
Yes.
was a handful of ones that came out that were super serious.
Yes.
Right. And now I've seen a few people in their local markets jump on the news station as a guest or are now creating co-op programs with products. What is the potential of this over time?
So it comes back to, again, establishing a strong personal brand. And even if it takes a decade, you're going to have a lot of future value. Like, look at where you'll be in 10 years from now if you consistently post. So you might not get a ton of brand deals overnight. You might not get money thrown at you, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. Like, it doesn't happen overnight, but you will start to get noticed in whatever you're an authority or expert in after time. Repetition is key because even subconsciously, people are continuously seeing you. You're known as that expert. I mean, I remember I followed Gary Vee before he had even that many followers, like a long time ago. And so seeing someone like that, if you're not familiar with him, he's a big marketing guru and he's really encouraging about creating content. But from a decade ago to now, this guy now has hundreds of millions of followers. So, and is making a lot of money from it. So, I mean, it could create anything from like how one of our clients, A&E, wanted to create a TV pilot from his content to working with brands who will reach out to you. On the side for fun, I create travel videos. I just had a brand reach out saying like, hey, can I send you some free travel gear, like backpacks, duffel bags, make a video about it. I mean, that's free stuff, but still it could lead to something else. Then you could have brands that will pay you. If you're a digital marketer, you could collaborate with some people you really look up to who are also in the space. You could end up writing a book. You could end up getting speaking gigs. You could create a product line. I've seen influencers who was friends with in LA who started as actors making goofy videos who have their own product line. They're making millions of dollars. So really it's limitless. And that's what's really cool about it. It can be overwhelming, but the return is huge if you just stick with it. It might not happen the first year, first 3 years, first 4 years, but it will pay off.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of big money here if you plan and you understand what you want to get out of it, right? And
Exactly.
you know, I've seen more and more, you know, there's different people that in the beginning it used to be like, oh my God, what are they trying to do with trying to, you know, try
Yep.
on clothes or showcase stuff, but now it's more and more people are doing it.
Yeah.
And because those brands have big platforms, they're being featured on their site.
Yep.
And then other brands are saying, we want you to represent our brand too. So now they go at it with brand to brand. And now they become, maybe growing up was the printed book that comes from Macy's or J.C.
Yeah.
Penney. Now the internet is the new printed book. The
Exactly.
internet's the new TV.
It
I
really is.
remember when Jersey Shore came out and all these different shows came out, I was still subscribing to cable
Yep.
when MTV was around and BET and VH1. Now it's like jump on a YouTube channel or watch it live.
Yep. And having like come from Hollywood and still one foot in, one foot out still, I know and I've heard multiple times in the past 6 months from big heads of, big studios and production companies saying like, hey, our budgets are really being slashed in terms of making shows and movies. Like because all of our talent is coming from the internet. People have shorter attention spans and we just want to see content online. So they're even putting money in towards like creating shows on TikTok and Snapchat. So really like as a consumer or content creator, you hold all the power and you don't need to be a fashion vlogger or like do something crazy. You could be a tech executive who's really passionate about talking about tech or a marketer who loves digital marketing. It could be a chef. It could be a dog walker, a dog groomer. Like really, you could do it with anything.
Man, it's it's amazing. And I appreciate you just going all in on this because I feel like if we could inspire or gain the attention of one, two, or three people that really take ownership, and we're challenging you. If you're tuning in right now, Megan's challenging you, I'm challenging you. We want to hear your success if you just get started. Tag Megan, tag us at Go High Level, mention
Please.
the episode. I gave it a shot and I'm liking it, believe it or not. I'm enjoying, like, we want to hear the success. And we got some good stuff from this episode. And I hope that we get to see you again and see you at our future events and find ways to collaborate with you. But for those that are maybe just tuning in right now and they're not the type to go back,
Yes.
could you just recap in maybe 4 to 5 bullet points what they missed out on and why
Yeah.
they should definitely watch from the beginning?
Yeah. So I'm totally one of those people. So go watch from the beginning because I'll just tune in and be like, I'll get the last 5 seconds. So basically, I'd say it's all about branding content creation right now, if you've been skeptical or you've been on the fence and you're like, oh, I see that person, they have millions of followers and I want to do that, or you own a company and you don't want to put your face out there, I would encourage you to do it, especially if you have any inkling of wanting to do it, because every person in the entire world, I fully believe this, is a very unique, authentic person who has a story to tell. And I'm very passionate about storytelling. Even if you feel like you're the most boring, mundane, lived in the same place your entire life, you have a unique perspective that is needed to be heard by a group of people. So if your video reaches 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, just put it out there. Start simple. Simplicity is key. If you're like, I'm not a filmmaker, I don't own all this stuff, I have no one to film, I have no one to edit, literally pick up your smartphone, even if it's an old model, put it in front of a light or a window. You want it facing towards you. Make sure you're talking clearly. You could always get a really inexpensive microphone on Amazon. Just start filming yourself, and put it online. If you're a business owner, I would highly encourage you to think about putting out content that represents you and your company, because people want to hear from you. I think brands are much more impactful when you really feel a connection to the owner or someone in the company. Like, we have one client, the owner refuses to be on camera, so the COO will be on. That's fine. And also, if you want to stand out in a crowded market, think about authenticity, and you could try throwing some comedy in. You don't need to be a stand-up comedian, even if you think you're the least funny person ever. If you are authentic and you add just subtle elements of humor, it could really help you stand out.
Thank you so
And
much. And
yeah,
I didn't mean to make you pretty much summarize this whole episode, but there's so much value, and people, just like you said, attention span is short. And if we got them for 2 minutes of just that recap, it is well worth to go back and start really putting a plan together. Look, y'all heard it directly from Megan Nager. If you are not a high level user, Megan, you're a high level user, right?
yeah, I was gonna say, my husband and I are obsessed with high level. So
What's
yes.
one thing you love about high level that you use to bring in new business, new sales for your
It's
business?
just, my husband is like your biggest fan ever. You should have him on because he'll just tell you a million things. He uses it every single day. I mean, just it's our CRM. So just the amount of options it has, I feel like it's more all in one than any other platform we've ever used. So yeah, it has everything in it that you need to run a business.
And your husband's a camera fanatic, and that's like, is he Sony? Is he Canon? Is,
He is Black Magic and Canon. Black Magic, he loves reds, but like but yeah, mainly the majority of our cinema cameras, I say, are Black Magic, but he does like Canons as well.
so it's like a camera, very particular, and they're very
Yeah.
detailed. And for those photographers and videographers watching, we are like the creme de la creme. If Megan and her husband use us, we're very honored. So we're excited. But if you're not a high level user yet, you're missing out. We do
Yeah.
episodes like this for a reason, and we expect you to jump into your high level, get creative, and get making new customers coming in from it. Megan, till next time, and to our audience, we hope to see you on the next episode. We'll see you then.
Thank you.